Hello, Paul McFadden here, and welcome to the Property Success Podcast. My goal with the podcast is to bring on guests that's going to inspire you. And today's guest, Rodger Boyd. Welcome to the podcast, Roger.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you having us on.
Now, what I love about your chat just prior to starting this podcast, Roger, is that, it's one of those ones where I talk to so many people who are starting out their journey, and this is
Yeah,
how I know it's going to inspire many. It's that sometimes we forget how far we've come and what we've
yeah,
achieved until you actually have a moment like, oh my God, I'm going to be on a podcast. I need to talk about
exactly.
some things. You realize you've actually been involved in a lot. And
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to get into that conversation because, the idea of this podcast is that this won't be the first time I'm going to have you on. I'm sure I'll have you on in 6 months or a year from now, and you'll
yeah,
have accomplished a lot more as you go along because people's journeys forever evolving and growing.
yeah,
And what I love about just hearing what you guys have done, because you're doing this with your partner as well, Amanda, and it's amazing to see that, from how both of you have just applied yourself from coming along and learning more about property. But before we get into that, maybe take us back to, I guess, the younger Roger. Who were you? What were you up to? What were you doing?
yeah,
And then we can work our way up to what made you even think about property.
yeah. So, younger Roger, just a complete rogue, bit of a rascal, up to mischief.
And
School,
you get brought up not far from where I was brought up, weren't you?
aye, we're down in Inverclyde. So yeah, just I was up to mischief, running about with just a bunch of daft guys, getting into bother and doing stupid things that probably involved the law. And a few occasions, much to my parents' dismay. And my dad was just a hardworking guy, did his own business, and my mum was just a regular wee punter from a scheme. So she was doing stuff like Avon or even the wee sticky things you got back in the day, you putting on things. So she was just selling bits and pieces. So that was a wee bit of the family, but upbringing was it was good. So loving parents, they worked hard, but for some reason I just didn't fit in at school. Just had lots going on in my head and always distracted and getting into bother. Until probably around about fifth, sixth year, I decided to stay on. So a bunch of my pals kind of moved on, and they were just probably the guys that are like the class clowns that was keeping me aback a wee bit. So that was the 2 years I was trying to knuckle down and apply myself. Got some qualifications, not a massive amount, and came out of there and then started to go to college. Didn't quite have the qualifications to go directly to uni. Didn't know if I wanted the uni life to be deep down on. It was kind of like, I'm looking at how can I make money. Went and done electronic engineering for a year or two, didn't like it, dropped out, and then I thought I need to make money. So I ended up getting a job in a factory, so working night shift, early shift, back shift. Ran that for about 4 years, big multinational down in Greenock, IBM. And shortly after that, they offered me a full time job. So I started out there, I think it was 1999. So I worked my way up through the ranks in IBM. So a couple of guys kind of believed in me, put their trust in me, and I respected that, and it kind of gave me the hand up that I needed, I guess. So surrounding myself with some great mentors in around that, accelerated my development in there. They put us through like top talent, which is like 1% of their population. Accelerated through that. I started managing their sales outsourcing business. So some big huge deals opportunities stretched me, but I was always in a room full of people where they're just so intelligent, massively ahead of me, and could easily wipe the floor with me personally. But I was always curious and learning, just taking a lot in. That's my kind of way of learning, is just I guess observational, just figuring out people. Um, so yeah, that was a wee bit of my background. Done very well in the world. I've been there for about 20 years. At Pinnacle, we're running their outsourcing business across Europe. Specifically, the numbers in the UK were phenomenal. They're like a 1.4 billion kind of revenue generating engine. So my role around that was just managing a team of experts that would, knit together outsourcing opportunities, doing their due diligence, looking at risk management, looking at relationship management, influencers within different organisations at C-suite level. So there was a lot of training ground in there that I see is transferable when I start looking at, where we get into the property journey. But that was my background just really at that point. And then IBM was going through some turbulent times, and ended up taking redundancy back in 2018. So at that point, I felt particularly vulnerable because there was no other income. And I never forget that feeling of just, the insecurity or just the vulnerability of, jinx, where's my next paycheck going to come from, etc. So Had I known what I know now back in the day, I would probably would have pivoted and done something different. But I decided to kind of reinvent myself and look at other opportunities that were out there. So at that point, so somebody in my network that I used to work with was one of my first managers in the world of IBM. He'd moved to a financial organisation, and he was working in the world of cybersecurity and intelligence. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. That sounds like pretty cool. And he offered me a role, and I was like, I've got no background in this, mate. And he's like, but I trust you. I was like, okay. So I went in like a rabbit in the headlights and get thrown into the deep end. And I've been there for 5 years. So I'm now running their kind of threat intelligence, cybersecurity operations. So it's all to do with monitoring and using AI and cognitive AI and various other, I guess, big platforms that enterprises would use to kind of look at things. So that's been an incredible journey in its own right, building up teams of people, seeing their growth and developing in them. So that's a good bit of my background, really. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What I love about just hearing from your background is that a lot of people who find themselves in a situation where they are the one that doesn't fit in a room in the sense of least experienced or whatever that may be, that's when a lot of imposter syndrome can kick in. And
Massively.
for many people, I think everyone feels it, but for many people, they pivot away. It's almost like they self-sabotage in a sense of like, I don't feel comfortable here, I don't want to be here. And to their own detriment, they then self-sabotage and disappear, do something else.
Yeah.
But what was it? It was a trigger in you to see it differently, you know, because it's almost like, well, wow, I'm clearly the imposter here. I'm the least experienced. But what you said there was great because it's the whole thing that I talk about with anyone. You've got to get into an environment where you feel uncomfortable in order for you to level up and grow.
Yeah.
But what was that gave you that kind of push towards it rather than running away from it?
Just a desire and a motivation to prove myself that I could do things. You're in amongst an environment of people who are experts in that space, and I knew nothing about that. You know, talk to me about threat intelligence, and they're working with MI5 and various other organisations globally around fraud and espionage and looking at money transactions, and I'm like, I know nothing about this stuff. This is crazy, but it's a belief in yourself that actually I can fit in here. I can apply myself. I can build the systems and the processes and the governance around all that, and I can make this work because I've done it before. I can repeat it and make it work. That was new to a lot of people who are technically just want to do their thing,
Yeah.
but the business will want to understand where are we with the money, and so looking at the finances, etc. So we've got all that profit and loss, growing that side of the business. I'm like, there's nobody else in around about here doing that, but I know how to do that, so I apply myself and grow it, and that's where I come into my own in that space, and you're starting to shine. So that's where you get the motivation. I can actually bring value to the table here, whereas
Yeah.
before I was kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but it is amazing, and a lot of that's kind of transferable as well when you start looking at property. When you think of, I think it was Churchill made this saying that it was, professionals are on tap, but you're on top. And I
Yeah.
thought, I like that in terms of where I'm at. Lots of professionals around about me that know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that. But I know what I'm doing, and I know where I'm going, so
Yeah.
I'm clear about that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's a great analogy. I'm definitely going to steal that from my own, right? But I like to use the one of it's like conducting an orchestra,
Yes.
being the conductor. The conductor may know how to play an instrument or two, but the reality is they've got the experts around him that's playing each of the part, and he's just conducting the whole musical as well. And I guess that you need to have some great people and skilled people around you in order to develop and build what you're trying to do. And
Yeah.
it's good that you've saw that and obviously transferable into your property business. But what got you thinking about property? What was the trigger there?
So, as I said, I came out of IBM, so in with the financial organisation for the last 5 years. My wife and I had been doing fostering. So my wife is a primary teacher. She's done that for 15 years, and we were doing fostering for 5 years. So when the last baby went up for adoption, we started to consider, what could we do differently to try and bring money in. So there's two things happening at the same time. We were getting the opportunity to take on the family business, which is a farm. It's around about 700 acres down Inverclyde, and there's like 5 income streams around about that. And one of those income streams is property. So we looked at the numbers, we got on top of it very quickly with the bookwork, and we decided, you know what, we need to invest in order to get the growth up in these and get the appreciation to the level where it should be, because it had just fallen into disrepair I guess. So for 18 months, we spent a lot of time and energy doing refurbs for 8 flats, completely ripping out, you know, bathrooms, kitchens, new doors, you name it. So we built a really good power team in that area, and it gave us the confidence to start looking at, well, actually, if we're doing that for the family business, which we're only stewarding for the next generation, because that's what farming does, you don't take a lot of money out of that. We never took an income, but we got a passion for it. And at the same time, there was a person who was really prominent in property that we were watching on socials, and we knew them. So we asked them to come and have a chat with us, and they invited us to, look, you guys should go and do a jump start and take it from there. And we were like, all right. So yeah, we came to the jump start, and honestly, our minds were just blown away. Like, you just blew my mind away. Like, I thought we knew what we were doing a couple of buy-to-lets, but the strategies and the process and just, I guess, the network and the mindset just totally blew me away that day. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I couldn't get you out of my head, mate. I was like, this is just nuts. And I thought, it's either some sort of magician up there who's hypnotized me to the point that he's hitting every single pain point that I feel in my life. There's a connection there. And then the reality is, when you look at yourself and you self-reflect, you kind of think, yeah, that's fine, but you need to take action and fix this. You know, like, and I was like, right, well, we need to take action. So I was a wee bit of a procrastinator than the first day, and then the second day, I think we had a good conversation with Alexna, who there's a bit of a, I guess, a rapport with regards to, we've got 3 girls, so that resonated. I think you came off the stage just after saying something along the lines of, you would do anything for your children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I would. You know, I really want to give the kids a great life, and I want to grow that with them. So the girls are, Hannah's 12, Ailey's 14, Emma's 16. So they're all different, all unique. My middle child, Ailey, she just loves property. She loves the bright lights and I guess the shiny object syndrome. So immediately we were away looking at fancy cars. We're sitting in Ferraris, we're sitting in Bentleys, we're sitting in stuff. She's doing TikTok, she's loving all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'd love to be able to give something that like this for you, but I know I need to do a lot of work to get there. So I'm not afraid of work. I was just like, wow. So all this was going on, and as I say, Alexna just kind of that resonated with the children, and I think I put it on a credit card to come to Prodigy. I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money, but a big investment. But I don't regret it at all. It's been life changing for us.
Yeah.
So my wife came along and done Prodigy in September after signing up, and I followed shortly in January when I organised some holiday entitlement with my work. So
Yeah. What I love about what you've just shared there as well is that I think for most people, we understand, like, for anyone who's interested in property, we understand that there's money to be made.
Yeah.
But for many people, they have a preconceived idea in what they should do in property, get a buy-to-let or whatever that may be. And it's in a way, it's ignorance. I say that in the nicest possible way. But once you actually learn and understand that it's not as straightforward as you might think, there's processes to it. There's due diligence to learn. There's multiple different strategies. There's ways to finance deals. There's ways to scale up. The mindset, like all of that stuff that you've experienced, that both you from coming through Protege. But it's amazing to think that even the thought of making an investment in yourself, it's like it's a lot of money. And of course, on the trade-off, you tell me that it's been well worth it because of what it's been able to achieve and what it's been able to do for you guys. But most people don't see that, and it's almost taking that step in faith, you know, and trusting the process. And thankfully, we've got hundreds upon hundreds of success stories, and you know, the person you're talking about has also had their own success stories as well, which I guess that there's proof of concept, but at the same time, and inspires many others, and why I do the podcast, because I think that when you hear people's journey and everything else, it's inspiring. You know, so it's for me, it's massive respect for those that make that bold commitment to themselves to make that next step. And you know, and for you guys like Alexa, and I know how she is with the kids and stuff, it's just that, you know, what you doing this for, who's it for, what you trying to build, you know. And it gets you to self-reflect and realize, well, You know, if everything I've done, which you've had a lot of success in your own life, it's like, what's got me to here? Where am I going in the next evolution? Because one of the words that you used earlier on is just reinvention. You've reinvented yourself, and you're just going to reinvent yourself again. People are going through multiple reinventions through their life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as long as you embrace that and go through that, then it can really be transformational.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you probably said in one of the courses is along the lines of, the things that you've done today, congratulate yourself, you're respected for where you are, but it's not going to get to where you want to get to. So you do need to change, and you do need to do something different. And I thought, you're absolutely right. Like, there's so much fire in my belly right now. I want to go after this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great motivator right there.
Absolutely. And
It's
you got Amanda came in September, you
yeah.
came in January, and then within a couple of weeks of January you secured your first deal, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, came out of Prodigy, and we'd sourced an opportunity off market. It was a buy to let. The stuff that you teach, we've probably done everything wrong. but yeah, the numbers from memory, I think it was on market value was around about 65,000. We bought it for 55, which was a not bad discount at the time. Um, but when we get involved with it, they wanted to be a bit more, and I was going back and forward and stuff like that. But it was cash flowing at £311, I think. So we were kind of like, we settled on that, and I thought, right, that's a not bad first deal. We'll run with that. We're working with a charity who helps people in addiction, and that background people don't get on the property ladder, or landlords are very sceptical of them. But Amanda and I have always been involved with this charity for the last 30 odd years, and we know the management that look after these guys, and after a year to 2 years, they're good to go in terms of you want to give them a hand up in life. So we decided to rent it out to the charity. So with that, brought in some nuances around insurances for a typical buy to let,
Mm.
and we had to go back to the mortgage broker and just make sure that they were aware of the intent of this was, it was going to be like a let to a charity, and they were going to manage it. But we also wanted a letting agent to do all the legal stuff that kept us right. So I was outsourcing everything basically, so I wasn't working in the business.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to be on it. So yeah, that was a peculiar one just to start with, but so much learning in that in its own right, getting it over the line. So no, we're
Yeah.
quite chuffed. That was our first deal
Yeah.
in February.
And that's amazing. I guess that ties into a bit more of the background in terms of fostering,
Yeah.
in terms of supporting charities, and I guess that we were talking just prior to the podcast about just wanting to help people.
Yeah,
It's I think that when you have that at the core of who you are, like, how can you go wrong?
it's so fulfilling and satisfying. We've helped multiple people over a lifetime, and whether it's people in addiction, people through our church. So we go to church, and our faith has been a massive part of my life. So in terms of what we're able to do and around that, it's just phenomenal, and that will always be there. It's who we are. We're well known in the community. The family's been in the farm site for well over 100 years. So that's kind of like fifth generation farming, and we're involved in that. And on the farm itself, they were involved with a charity nearly 30 years ago, where they wanted to get it's basically a big HMO. It's like 24 bed. It's on the farm now, but that's been built up over years. But the amount of families and people that have been impacted because of the commitment to just helping people has been amazing. So we get to see that as guys, who are broken in life or messed up, and there's been hundreds of guys come through that program, and now they're on their feet. And even to this day, there's a guy who's called, he's a plumber. So he came from a bit of a background, got into addiction and gambling, and lost his plumbing business, and then went through the program. And we've been able to give him a hand up by giving him some space just to set up his tools in one of the barns on the farm. So he's called Faithful and True, the Fat Plumber. I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, there's things like that. We're involved in people, and we've all have been. And I think when we transition into property, that's what I love about the network is people genuinely want to help people, and that just resonates with us so much that we can give so much as well.
Yeah.
But we can also receive a lot in terms of we're still learning on the job, so to speak. And as soon as you reach out to people, people are willing to kind of surround himself and help you as well, which is a great thing.
Yeah, there's this misconception that landlords, people who buy property, they're ripping people off, they're like you know how we get a bad rap sometimes. And I think what we teach with anything we do, it's about having the right ethical approach to dealing with someone who has to sell the property. And of course, we teach multiple strategies. So the sense that when you're helping someone, you're presenting options to fix the person's solution, not
Yeah,
necessarily to benefit yourself. That's a byproduct of it. But there's a number of different exits you can help someone that's in a situation where they need to sell quickly. And then putting tenants in place, making sure you're a responsible landlord, making
yeah,
sure you're doing everything you need to do. And then with what you're doing in a sense of charity work and working with those charities and stuff as well, and giving those opportunities to many people that just won't,
hmm,
you know, so it
yeah,
goes the exact opposite to what people actually think that landlords do.
exactly. Yeah, and just on our wee offshoot on that, we're chatting the other day there. So we've been good relationship with a lot of the tenants in the farms business portfolio, and one of them's been there for like 10 years, and would love them to particularly own their property, and this may be counterproductive, but it's an asset that's generating income, right? But there's another side I'm wearing the hat saying we need to invest in the farm business, so there's needing a new silage pit, so that's going to cost money. So unless we go and sell something, it's going to be difficult to do that unless you got another income stream. So we pivot, and I was like, let's go and have a chat with them. So we've had a conversation with the existing tenant who's been there and said, look, we can help you buy this, which is counterproductive, but help her buy it. It's a great thing to do. They've been there for 10 years, have owned it as if it's their own, and we're going to sell it. And that's a great thing to be able to give back as well, because we'll put that money to work and we'll get that reinvested in other assets in the farm. But
Yeah.
in a sense, it's like, that's really cool. It's an exit, but
Yeah.
it's a sweet story for us, because like now that's having an impact in their family.
Hmm.
It's just that there's a wee single mother, we're a couple of kids who come and hang out with her in time. So that's a cool thing to do. So, you know,
Absolutely. And one of the things we're talking about as well, which I think would be great to kind of share, you're saying you're touching 50 in a few weeks, is that right?
yes, yes.
And
Don't remind me.
looking good for 50, I'll
Cheers,
tell you
man.
that.
Cheers.
But it's one of those ones where you were saying there that you had a bit of self reflection, in the sense of I want to get involved in bigger deals.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to get a strategy where I'm able to really have a lot of money coming in. And what's interesting about that is many people who start out in the property journey, they will likely start off with your traditional buy to lets, maybe a few buy to flips, maybe some deal trades. They might even go into some of the other strategies like assisted sales or bigger developments, commercial, residential, or extensions or whatever that may be, and
Yeah.
whatever that is, it's that kind of starts to then have them think ahead of of in their mind at the time a strategy that's beyond them at the moment.
Yeah.
But for others, similar to yourself, you're like, well, wait a minute. Why can't I get involved in a bigger development? Why can't I get involved in that where the profits are not 50, 60? It's now hundreds of thousands of pounds profit.
Hmm.
So you are working on some deals just now that are quite tasty. So I know that some of the information is still relatively private and confidential, but just give us a bit
Yeah.
of a high level in terms of why you decided to get into that, and more importantly, just some high level on what you're working on.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. So yeah, our desire is to look at commercial multiple occupancy and license that, where you have a building where multiple residents or business owners would be wanting to rent out some space in that facility, and ideally have it for events. So again, going back to our heart is to work with people, and we see that as being a lever that we can leverage. That's a win-win for us. We're able to continue to work with people and their different businesses, and even help or facilitate some of those growth areas. So yeah, that's in our pipeline just now. Have multiple conversations. We're going through some legals around those things, and then the other one is looking at land development. So, going back 20 years ago now, Amanda and I, our second opportunity to come up was to do a barn conversion on the farm that we live in. So it's a 200-year-old barn that is just lying derelict. So we were involved. We've done land development from that perspective. So it gave us a lot of insight and experience. But I never thought I'd see the day again where I'd be doing that, because it is quite stressful. But again, massive learning. So you think, well, look back to you're thrown in the deep end. You get confident. You know who you are a little bit, and what you can bring to the table. So it's not to say you're not going to learn on the job. It's just that I'm focused. And so yeah, the 4 units as developments around about 2.8 million or thereabouts. So we'll be looking to raise finance around that and take that to our network and our community to see if they can help us. But again, that's a big number. You know, for us, it would be life changing. Coming from a bit of a skint background, it's kind of like, right, this would be pretty amazing to get some money like that. And again, I think, you know, as I shared with you, one of the main things I start to look at is what's your pension pot worth, and it's not growing. You're lucky if it's going 6% per annum in a good day. Till Liz Trust does something stupid and it goes down the way. So, but yeah, like anybody that's my age is probably looking at that and thinking, actually, how could I top that up? How could I actually get to a lifestyle type of business that's going to help me be successful around that and give you options? And I think that's what property does. It's a leveler for people, but it does give you options. And I think if you're looking to invest in pension, then when I came to the course, I knew nothing about a SaaS. My goodness, man, that thing blew my mind, and it's still to this day is like, wow. But one of the nuances around that is, in order to unlock that, I need to be doing some deal trading. So we have facilitated some deal trades that will be coming to fruition in the next couple of weeks. So we've got about six deals on the table that we'll be looking to sell. So that gives you a wee bit of trading ability, and then that will help me unlock my SaaS and then put that to work on the commercial side of things. So.
Great stuff. And when we look at developments, that there's got a GDV, gross development value, of about 2.8. Normally you're working on 20% profit margin, which would be the best part of 600k. Is that kind of what your expectations, or is it more? Or
yeah, it's around about 600.
Yeah. I know my numbers.
I know, I know that. Yeah.
No, but it's great and it's exciting, and of course that there's a lot to embark on that, in the sense of getting it over the line and making it happen. And I guess with your background and and just with that whole approach of getting the right team around you, you'll pull it off. So that's super exciting, and it's great that you're thinking that way. You're not thinking, you're doing both. You're still building a portfolio, still doing what people would class as normal deals, but at the same time got that mindset and approach of, I want to do a lot bigger. I want to fast track this. Who says that you need to wait the best part of 10 years before you can get involved in that? That was my biggest problem. Because for me, I never had the people around me that would encourage me to go and look at bigger deals. It wasn't until later, I'm talking about 8 years ago, there or thereabouts, when I started to get around a different network myself, where people where people made me look as if I had achieved nothing, and I'm like, oh, I thought I'd done something. Maybe I need to rethink. And then it gets you to push to that next level if you're up for the challenge, and it's exciting to see what can be done. So what you're doing in a fraction of the time is just unbelievable, what will be involved in those projects.
Yeah, no, we're excited about that, and I think it's getting in amongst people who are ahead of you and thinking, how can I get there? And that's why I love the network, in a sense, is people are out there doing stuff that takes you to a level where, I want to get there, but I don't know how to get there completely, and there'll be some blanks in amongst that process, but that's when you start to become creative and ask questions. I'm very inquisitive and curious individual, so hopefully with that I'll figure stuff out as we go on the journey. So I'm a work in progress. I'm not the perfect product for any stretch of the imagination, but it's a fun thing.
That's great. And what's the focus going forward? What's the bigger picture?
The bigger picture is just really we're looking to kind of build up a personal brand around Boyd Investments. So we'll be looking to take on investors on that journey as we start to apply them to particular projects, giving them a good return. And, at the heart of it is, what can we do with people and property? Then the byproduct is profit. So if we can do all that longer term, fantastic. I think we'll get a lifestyle business, but who knows? I wouldn't say in 5 years I wouldn't be interested in having a chat about what an IPO looks like. So that's maybe another thing. But I think that'll build up confidence in doing what we're doing just now and roll with that just now.
Yeah, fantastic. I know this is not going to be the last time we get you on the podcast, I know that we'll be getting you back on, no doubt, 6 months from now, hearing about your journey, what you guys are involving in, those projects, how they progressed as well. It's all super exciting. In terms of people reaching out to you and connecting with you, where's the best place to connect?
You probably get me on Facebook or Instagram, just Rodger Boyd. Just hook me up. I'd love to have chats with people about their, maybe who's sitting on the fence about it, wanting to get started in property, would love to help you in that journey. Again, with our experience, if it's to summarise what we're overseeing in the last year or so, there's like 9 buy-to-lets, 2 serviced accommodations, 1 HMO, and 1 commercial. And now we're looking at some land developments and CMO. So we've got enough experience we want to share with people. So if anybody wants to get involved or at least come see our projects or have a chat, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah. So you're dropping all these deals you're working on right at the very end of the podcast, Rodger.
I should come back to number 2.
And this is what I'm talking about prior to getting on this podcast, when it was the whole idea of, I don't know if I've done much or what have I even, oh my God, it's been remarkable. So amazing. I will most definitely be getting you back on and hearing more about your journey as we go along. But thanks for being my guest today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
Good stuff. And as always, look, I'm sure you're inspired. That's for sure. Make sure that you go and follow and connect with Rodger. I'll link off to all his socials as well in the show notes. And of course, you get any comments, pop it in the comments below and I'll go in to respond. And I'm sure Rodger will keep an eye out for that too. So until next time, all the best and bye for now.